Hey everyone, it's that math magician, and on this video we're going to look at how we can solve a system of equations using one of the three methods we've learned in the previous videos. Now you might have forgotten that, and that's okay, so let's do a quick recap on when we should use each of these three different methods. Now for equal values method, we use that when we have two equations that are equal to a variable. We use the substitution method when we only have one equation equal to a variable. And finally down here with the elimination method, we use that when we have zero equations equal to the same variable. Now let's take a look at our system that we have here. And with these two equations, I see that they both start off with y equals. What that means is that I know that 4x minus 9 equals y, and x minus 3 also equals y. So these two expressions here equal the same variable. That means we're going to use the equal values method to solve this problem because I have two equations that are equal to the same variable. Now just to make sure we're understanding what we're doing here, when I have two equations and I ask you to solve it to find the solution, what I'm really asking is where do these two lines intersect? There's a point there, a point where they intersect, and that's what we want to find. So let's go ahead, jump into this problem, and see how we can use the equal values method to solve it. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we know that 4x minus 9 and x minus 3, they both equal y. That means that they both equal each other. If you have two expressions equal to the same variable, then that means those two expressions must be equal to each other. So that means then that I can write that out. I can write that 4x minus 9 equals x minus 3. That's a true statement because I know both of those expressions here equal y. So now I have a single equation with a single variable now that I can solve to figure out my x value. So let's go ahead and solve this. I'm going to go ahead and see that I have a minus 9 here on the left side. I'm going to go ahead and add 9 on both sides so that I can move that constant of negative 9 over to the right side. So I'm going to add a plus 9 and a plus 9 to both sides here. And by doing that, these 9's on the left will zero out. So on the left side, I'm just left with a 4x and an equal sign. That's it. Now on the right side, I still have my x variable here. Nothing has changed with that. But on the right, I have a negative 3 that I'm adding 9 to. And negative 3 plus 9 equals positive 6. So what I have here now is an equation where my constants are now on the right side. Now I want to move my variable over to the left side. I want to get all my x's on this side. I want my variables and my constants separate from each other. And we're close. I have my 6 over here. Now let's move that x over to the left side by subtracting x on both sides. By subtracting x on both sides, the x's on the right zero out, so that I'm just left with a 6 and an equal sign. On the left side, I have 4 x's here, 4 x's, take away an x, leave you with 3 x's. So our last step here is we're almost done. I almost have x by itself. All I have to do now is divide both sides here by 3. By doing that, I cancel out these 3's. 3 divided by 3 becomes a 1. And I bring that x down all by itself. And I now know that x equals 6 divided by 3. And 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So we now know that for these two equations here, this system, that x equals 2. Now remember, we're trying to find out where do these lines intersect, that point, that coordinate point. There's an x and there's a y. So we have half of the problem done now. We know that x equals 2, Our last step is just to figure out what y equals. So to do that, I just have to pick one of these equations to use so that I can substitute 2 for x into these, and then I'll be able to solve for y. Now the trick here is to pick the easiest equation up there that's going to require the least amount of work. I see that this second equation is very simple. It's just x minus 3. So let's use that equation instead of the one up here where we have to involve multiplying 4. So I'm going to write this equation again. Y equals x minus 3. But now instead of keeping that as an x, I know what x equals. We figured that out. We know that x equals 2. So I'm going to take that 2 here, and I'm going to drop it in there for my x value so that I can find out that this x is now a 2, and y equals 2 minus 3. Well, 2 minus 3 equals negative 1. So now I have my x value, now I have my y value. The final thing we want to do, I told you, these are two lines. We're finding that point where they intersect. We want to now write this as an ordered pair. Remember, for ordered pairs, we write that as x comma y. Well, my x value here is a 2. My y value here is a negative 1. So that is the point on the graph where these two equations intersect. 2 comma negative 1. All right, guys, it's that Math Magician, and I'll see you on the next video.